So I have previously talked about prismatic evolutions a lot and how buying elite trainer boxes at around $100 or under, plus or minus five, $10, whatever it is, right? I've talked about how, in my opinion, it's not really a bad idea. Now, obviously, a lot of people don't agree with it. People say this goes to MSRP. It's an argument to be made, right? People on either side, you can argue both ways because no one knows what's going to happen in the future. And in this video, I am going to be, I guess, once again talking about that. And also, like I have before, comparing it to 151. Because, 151 and Prismatic, it's a little bit hard to compare because they are totally different sets. We're talking about an evolution set versus like a first gen set, like a nostalgic thing. I get it. But the similarities these two sets have is that they're both super popular in this era, and they're both specialty sets, and that's about as closer as we're going to get to any comparison, because Prismatic, you can't really compare it to Shrouded, Paldean Fates. You can't really compare it to those. So Prismatic and 151, it's the best comparison, and Prismatic is more expensive than 151 by far in terms of card prices. So this is as best as it gets in terms of comparing sets. And really, in this video, I just want to give, I guess, a thought out reasoning of why, if you were to buy a Prismatic ETB at like $100, what it is right now, why it's not a bad idea in the long run, right? And that's the thing I want to emphasize here, is the long run, right? Because I feel like so much now, it's just short term stuff. Like people saying, oh, well, in 3 months, what if it drops a little bit more and then I can buy then? Or what if it, drops here and then I'll buy it there? And it's like, timing the market, especially with a set that's obviously, right, going to perform extremely well in the long term, is dangerous. And the reason why it's dangerous is because you're investing, right, to make money, okay? And if you're investing to make money, why would you pass up on investing into what's probably going to be one of the best modern investments of all time? Why would you pass it up to hope it goes to MSRP? And I've talked about this before too. What is the likelihood, right? And that's something that I think people don't even think about. Do you think the likelihood that Prismatic Evolution's Elite Trainer boxes, I'm not talking about other products, do you think the likelihood of Elite Trainer boxes going to MSRP is greater than them not? That is something to think about, because if you really think that the ETBs have a greater chance to go to MSRP and wait for that time to pick them up, then obviously you wouldn't be buying now, right? But if you think, if I really think about this, Prismatic being this expensive, we just got pretty much two restocks, and it didn't drop it anywhere near MSRP, and we see previous specialty sets in Scarlet and Violet not really getting ETB reprints. They've reprinted other products. How likely is it that Prismatic, of all those specialty sets, gets reprinted to the point where it goes to MSRP? That is what you got to think about. And that's just a logical thought process, right? Okay, look at all these previous sets. None of these sets went to MSRP. They really haven't printed any of these ETBs, and none of them have gone to MSRP after going above it. Do I really think Prismatic is going to go to MSRP? Those are some things to think about. And in my opinion, which is why I've said it previously, I think it's very unlikely. So buying from a restock where prices drop like $20, in my opinion, is not a bad idea, especially when you look at this from the long term. And that's something I want to talk about, because let's say theoretically, this never goes to MSRP, theoretically, right? And let's say you don't buy because you wanted to buy MSRP. Well, you would have missed out on buying Prismatic ETBs if they never go to MSRP. And what would you have missed out on, potentially, right? After they got a print, they never got MSRP, and you never buy in. What could you have possibly missed? In my opinion, one of the best modern investments of all time. And so far, 151, it's not even out of print yet. It shows the pathway Prismatic is going to go when these go towards being out of print. It's just so obvious this is going to perform so well, but people can't see the long term. People, I think, get scared about obviously people saying reprints into the ground and compare it to sets that obviously were in different times, completely different types of sets, and people get scared, right? But really, if you see the price point of $100 right now for this ETB, it's so extremely cheap right now. But you look at 151 and you see how long it's been out for, And how this has performed because it hasn't gotten reprinted, Prismatic, when it goes out of print, $100 is going to look like such a steal. And I know it's really hard to envision it right now because everybody's saying MSRP and everyone thinks this is crashing. But in the long term, it really does not matter because this is going to be well above $100 in ETB when it's out of print. And if it doesn't get reprinted, this thing is going to be very expensive. It's just the truth. I know a lot of people with Prismatic, you talk about buying above MSRP. People say you're a shiller or whatever. It's all like, I get it. I mean, I've been called a shiller for so long now, talking about Prismatic nonstop. But seriously, so many people, I feel like, just can't see this vision of Prismatic performing well. It's actually, in my opinion, kind of outrageous because it's so obvious it's going to perform. But people just don't want to believe it because everyone now has talked about MSRP, MSRP. Like, it's some hard stuck price for people that they have to pay this price. It's a weird psychological thing. But if you can really see past it, you will perform much better than other people that are waiting and waiting and waiting for this to go and crash to MSRP, which in my opinion seems near impossible. So I just want to show you guys 151, right? The ETBs, how old the set is, how they have performed, and think about Prismatic being in that situation. So 151 was released on September 22nd of 2023. Guys, that's not even a full year, 2 years yet. Look at this ETB. Because it has not really gotten reprinted since being over MSRP at all, look at this growth, right? Just look at it. And there's been no reprints in this whole time because Pokemon has decided to reprint other things. Now, can they still reprint it? Sure, because it's still in rotation. But we'll see if it happens for ETBs. It really hasn't happened to any special ETB. It's kind of weird. And you look at this set, and obviously it's first gen. This is where the comparisons are kind of hard with Prismatic and 151 because Prismatic EV set, this is first gen throwback stuff. I get it. But the total set value is nowhere near as much as Prismatic. Nowhere near it. It's like 5 times cheaper. And, one reason this, cards are so much cheaper in the set is because the pull rates are a lot easier. And the set has been out for longer, so more cards have entered the market. So that's the reasons why the cards aren't as expensive. Pull rates, it's been out longer. So that's the reasoning. But 151, obviously, total set value is not going to matter as much because it's just nostalgic, right? But then you look at Prismatic, right? And Prismatic was released January 17th earlier this year. So it's been, like 6 months already? And you look at this total set value, right? $5,500. Now it's gone down from where it was previously at, but still, it's gone down and still like over 5 times more expensive than 151. And you look at this set, and just the fact that it has all the evolutions and SARs, Master Balls, Pokeballs, God Packs, we all know it, right? You really think this is going to perform bad in the future? Like, seriously. And the argument to be made that, it still has 2 years, 3 years or whatever of being reprinted and it's going to get printed into the ground. Guys, if that was really the case, I've always talked about this and I feel like nobody wants to acknowledge it. Even when I talk about it, people just ignore it. Then tell me why 151 hasn't. 151, just look at this chart. It's been above MSRP for a full year now, right? Pokemon, in a full year, hasn't had any time to reprint these ETBs. They've reprinted other products like Blooming Waters, booster bundles, poster collections. But where's the ETB at? These are the things that people ignore and don't want to talk about when you talk about, it can get printed for another 2 years. Guys, why hasn't the ETBs gotten reprinted then? It's the biggest, strangest question. Look at Paldean Fates. That hasn't gotten reprinted either for the ETBs. They're $200 now. It's crazy. And I've talked about it before. 151 ETBs. After they got released, after Costco, with the tin bundle with Crown Zenith, you guys remember that from Costco? After they released, nothing got reprinted. Ever since then, they just went straight up. In Prismatic, what just happened recently? The Costco bundles just got released. I've made this correlation. I'm not saying it's going to exactly happen the same because Prismatic is somewhat in a different situation than 151 because it released in a different market. It released at a super high price point compared to 151. So it's a bit different, and Pokemon made those statements saying they're going to reprint the newer stuff. So it is a bit different in that way. But just previous history, Pokemon hasn't reprinted these ETBs. And even if they do you still think it's going to go to MSRP? Because like I said, look at these last 2 restocks we've gotten. from Costco and from just the normal restock the LGS's, LCS's got, it dropped it like 10, it dropped it like 15, $20. Do you really think you can drop another 50 of where it's at? And whenever they reprint this, this is probably going to be more expensive than $100. Do you think it's then going to go to $50? And this is where I'm telling you, you got to look at the long term and the potential upside. Look at 151. It's not even 2 years old yet. Look at how this is performing. Where is this going to be? Let's say theoretically, like I said, it doesn't go to MSRP. Where is this going to be then? You're going to miss out on a lot of potential gains if you wait for MSRP. Because if it never happens, you'll never buy in, and potentially this may perform just as good or even better than 151 in the same time frame. And 151 is almost 2 years old, it's not really there. So you wait about a year and a half. If these don't get reprinted, think about where this is going to be, and then you're going to look back and be like, wow, $100 in ETB, and you could have bought them locally for $90. You would be like, wow, I really waited for $50, which seemed very unlikely, never bought it, and let's say theoretically in a couple of years from now they don't get reprinted or the reprints don't do much, they're like then $250, $300. If you bought it $100 then, you'd still be doubling to tripling your money in a couple of years. You take all this stuff in perspective, it's not I'm trying to shill here. It's about a logical thought process of the long term. It doesn't matter you're paying $100. Even if they somehow go to MSRP, you average it, you could be at like $75 each. The long term, it does not matter. And if you're going to try to time the market and wait for this seemingly low price point for the most expensive modern set, if you're waiting for that, the likelihood, in my opinion, is very low. I truly believe that. And that's why, in my opinion, if you want to actually make money investing in the long term, timing the market for crashes is not the best strategy, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. So you'd rather then wait and not buy anything and not buy at all for one of the most probably, expensive modern sets of like all time. To me, that's not a good investing technique. Now, people will say, oh, it's okay. I'm okay missing out. But in that way, it's just a cop-out answer. It's above MSRP, sure. But you're not looking into the set as what it is. One of the most generational sets. I know it's hated, but it is. I think the argument to be made that it's a trash set, like some people say, is ridiculous. It's an EV set, has 33 SARs. It's the most expensive set by far, has God packs. Like, you may hate the set yourself, but investing wise, it's going to perform. The same thing happened to Evolving. People hated that set. It was hard to open anything good. It was always the most expensive. Everyone said it wasn't worth it. Look how it's performing. I think Prismatic, it's a little bit different because it's a specialty set, but it's going to perform in the long term. And I'm telling you, $100 today, in 2-3 years from now, is going to look extremely cheap. But if you never want to buy in, you'll never see the gains. And I'm telling you, if you really are in this for the long term, buying at $100, $50, it does not matter, because when this goes out of print, you're going to be making money. But people in the short term want to think about crashes, and that's why some people may never buy into Prismatic and will lose out on a lot of potential gains. And yes, in the comments, you can say, I don't care. I'm not going to buy above MSRP. But if you're investing and trying to make money, the most expensive modern set that you think is going to get MSRP for the ETB, I'm talking about the ETB here, I think it's pretty crazy. And you will probably miss out. In my opinion, you have a high chance of missing out on Prismatic Evolution's ETBs if you're waiting for it to go to 50 under. You have a high chance of missing out. Others will say differently. They'll compare it to Shining Fates. If you want to listen, go ahead. Because honestly, at the end of the day, I say this, I don't say this every single video because it's repetitive, but you can do what you're going to do. It's not going to affect me. But seriously, in this video, I'm actually trying to be helpful and telling you, if you're in this for the long term and you're waiting for MSRP, you may be greatly disappointed, never buy in. And when this gets to be $200-$300 in ETB, because it's going to be, you're going to look back at this time and be like, wow, I really waited for it to go to MSRP. It never did. I never bought in, and I missed out on a lot of gains. This video, we'll see if it ages well in the long term, right? You can go back to this video. Maybe it'll go back into the algorithm. But seriously, people do not see the long term. It's because people are emotional. A lot of people now talk about MSRP. But just wait when this really doesn't. Obviously, it may get reprinted. But if it doesn't, like 151 ETBs never did, I'm telling you, It's going to be crazy when people look back. But that's all I have for you guys here today. Just wanted to talk about this. Just some logical reasoning and explanation. But you can say I'm still shilling. You don't have to buy. You're not buying from me. I'm not making money from you buying ETBs. I'm not. Do what you want. But in this video, I'm seriously trying to be helpful and give you guys some logical thinking here of why buying now is not a bad idea. Because the long term, it does not matter at all. And if you don't want to buy and wait for MSRP, you're going to miss out on probably one of the best performing modern sets of all time. So that's all I have for you guys here today. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you watched all the way to the end of the video, comment down below Vapor Self is shilling or Prismatic Evolutions or something like that, because I mean it's just so obvious that this is going to perform, but just people are so emotional about this set and don't want to believe it because it's a newer set. But once it starts aging, people are going to think differently. It happens all the time, and it's going to happen with Prismatic. It is what it is. So that's all for you guys here. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.